This podcast is being powered by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Because you don't understand it, it must not exist, or because you don't have a reason for it. That's my favorite. Like, what's your problem with your life? And I'm like, it's not like that.
What up, y'all? Welcome back to Mentally a Badass. So today I have a guest named Flora, which is actually really cool because she's all the way from Europe. So this is going to be a really good conversation that we're going to have, just talking about, of course, today we're going to be talking about her experience with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. We're also going to talk about, she says she had an eating disorder, so we'll be talking about that. And then, so this is going to be a very valuable conversation. And Flora, thanks for being here, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I'm so glad we met too. We met with Above the Stigma on like one of our meeting calls. And yeah, I'm so glad that I was able to meet like-minded people and to bring you on my podcast, give more valuable knowledge to my audience. So let's get this going and let's talk about your badass experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that word badass. There is like no literal translation for it in Hungarian, which is my native language.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird. And I was sometimes I would I write as well. And when I was like writing in Hungarian way back when, now I write mostly in English, but I could not find the translation for badass, and I really wanted to put that word in there. And I'm like, what do I say? Because cool is not the same. Like badass is such a cool word.
Oh my God, that's so funny. See, I love this. I just love talking to people from all over the world because it's just like I learned this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so like rewarding to not rewarding, I don't think that's even the right word to say that, but like very wholesome and like eye-opening to like talk to people from all over the world. And it's just like it's crazy because like when you're like a teenager and you're a kid and you're just so used to talking to your hometown, and then you think the whole world is like your hometown.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
did you ever feel like that? And then for me, like personally, I moved from I'm from New Jersey, but I moved to Florida and I did a Disney college program. So we actually met people from all over the country as well as all over the world because they had an international program. So I like met people from like all over the world, which is really cool. But anyway, I'm going a little off track here.
No, it's okay.
Which I always do that on my podcast, and I think everyone just knows that. And I say the exact same statement every podcast. Like I'm gonna go off track just because that's when the ADHD kicks in and I just go somewhere else.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your experience with BPD. First, I would love for you if you could explain like what it is, just because some people may not know what it is.
Yeah.
And then like how you knew you have it, like when you were diagnosed, just kind of like freestyle it. Like tell us about your experience.
Okay. So BPD is a personality disorder, which means that it affects your whole life. Basically, it's kind of weird because it's a part of you, but it's not the entire you. So I am okay with saying I'm borderline, but some people don't like that term because they don't like associating that much with their illness. But I feel like it's okay that it's a part of me and I've embraced it at this point. But of course, it wasn't always like that. So there are 9 symptoms of BPD. But I think the biggest one is definitely the mood swings, which can happen in like 5 minutes. They last a couple hours or sometimes days, but it's different from bipolar because the switches are so much, maybe not more frequent, but quicker, and they are shorter. So it's very weird. I could go from being on top of the world and then like spiraling completely, and people are like, what the hell happened to you? And I'm like, I had a trigger. Yay.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. And then there are like attachment issues and unstable relationships, unstable sense of self. We tend to be very destructive, which is something that we have to get under control. A lot of people with BPD also deal with self-harm or suicidal thoughts and just destructiveness in general, like eating disorders or reckless driving. Some people are addicted to substances like alcohol or drugs, so that's pretty common. So it's a there are a lot of things that make up BPD. What else is it? Like chronic feelings of emptiness is another one of the symptoms. So like a lot of things, and it's a
Yeah.
very interesting personality disorder because it's like so many different things and all rolled into one, and you don't even have to have all the symptoms to be diagnosed. Some people have fits of anger, which is something that people commonly associate with BPD, but then there's a quiet borderline who just suppresses it all, and that's me. So people didn't understand, like,
Yeah.
how can you be borderline? You don't have these outbursts. And I'm like, but I still have the feelings. I just don't attack people when I'm in an emotional state. And I mean, like, not attack physically necessarily, but like
Yeah.
verbally. And yeah.
I feel like that disorder is like really hard to diagnose because also especially if being a
Oh,
woman,
yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when people like because women always have like mood swings all the time, for example. And then it's just because like, hormones or we're going back to our period and stuff. So I just feel like a lot of it it's really hard to tell, which is so things about being a woman because in this world and also having like a mental illness because it's really hard like if you're having like a symptom you're like is it me just being a girl or is it like my mental
Yeah,
health
definitely.
for me. Yeah. Do you think that like people can be both bipolar and borderline personality disorder? Because fun fact, well, I don't know if it's really a fun fact, but when I was when I was 17 and I had my like episode, like my big episode pretty much, when I went to a psychiatrist, I can't remember exactly. I know for a fact he diagnosed me with bipolar, but I don't really remember if he said bipolar and borderline personality disorder. I feel like he said both, but like it was so long ago and around that time I got diagnosed and then like was on medication and treatment but then like after high school and I went to college I like slacked on it and I went to therapy in college and they even said like oh I just think you have ADHD anxiety and depression I don't think you're bipolar or borderline and then I'm here 25 years old and I went again and then they said oh yeah we think you're bipolar so it's just like it's so all over the place where it's like, am I bipolar? Am I borderline personality disorder? Like, do you feel that bipolar and borderline personality disorder can get like mixed up or
Definitely.
like you
I
kind of
was almost diagnosed with bipolar at first. The first doctor I went to, she was like, I think you're bipolar, but I'm not going to put the label on you because I'm not sure. And I was like, what the hell do I do with that? Like, do I get the diagnosis or not? Like, I want one at
at least
this point.
she's honest with
Yeah.
you.
But she was like, I'm going to send you to a different place because I'm not sure. I think you're bipolar, but I'm not sure. And I went to this basically it was like a mental hospital thing, but like we could go out on the weekends. And in 2 weeks they were like, oh yeah, you're definitely borderline because I was like having mood swings all over the place and I was like acting out in the way that I would like I don't know, be very mean and like go into like this sobbing mode. I don't know. It was so weird. I was all over the place and they were like, yeah, that's definitely BPD. And I was like, well, my previous doctor just didn't know and wasn't sure for the longest time. And it was so weird that they were so sure so fast. But yeah, they definitely do get mixed up. And I was like, before that, I was reading into bipolar because I was like, she said this is what I most likely have, and I'm a researcher. So I was like, I know everything about bipolar. And they were like, hey, you're borderline. And I was like, I never heard of that one. So
Yeah, it's so hard. And honestly, like I really like cause I feel like when I was diagnosed recently, I feel like they diagnosed me so fast. Like they gave me like that whole like questionnaire thing, like a whole test thing. Like I don't know how like diagnosing is in Europe, like how they do like how the mental health facilities or psychiatry or whatever. I don't know how it works over there. I'm assuming it's universal, but I don't
I think
know.
it's universal.
But
They did have this questionnaire for me as well. It was like 400 questions or 600 maybe, and we are like so
oh
bored
wow,
that we're like
have
things like,
that.
do you believe in God or do you believe in this or do you
What?
think this? And I'm like, I just want this over with already. And some
What?
people like fake the
Do
whole
you believe in
questionnaire.
God?
Yeah.
What
I
is
don't
that?
know.
What does that have to do with your mental
I don't
health?
know. It was so weird.
That's
Like, do you
horrible.
believe men and women are equal? And do you prefer? There was something about blonde women. I don't know. It was so weird. There were some weird questions, but then there were like normal questions. But it was like so long because of these weird questions. Some
Oh,
people like totally
maybe it
faked
like
it.
has a reason. Maybe it has like a reason behind
Yeah,
it.
probably,
You know
but
what
it
I
was
mean? Like
just
a
like
certain behavior
so
thing.
long, and some people just went and clicked no, no, no for a while because they got bored, and they were pulled in again. Like, you totally faked this test. Like, do it for real this time, please. So
Oh my God. That's so funny. Like, do you believe in God? It's like,
yeah,
what?
I don't know how it connects to mental health, but I do remember there were questions about religion, and I thought it was weird, but I was like,
It's
I'll try to trust the system because that's the best you can do, I suppose. You have to put your trust somewhere. So
yeah, I just feel like like bringing religion into this is kind of inappropriate in my personal opinion because I feel like with mental health, it's behavior, it's emotion, it's science. It is science because your chemicals in your brain. So just like bringing religion into this, like I know a lot of people they do turn to God when they're in like really dark situations. I do know
yeah.
that, but I just feel like not everybody is religious. You know what I mean? And at least in like the US, or like I think it's actually would probably be illegal to do
Yeah,
that here.
actually, I just graduated from English and American Studies, and I had a bunch of like things to study in American culture, and it was when I was studying for that, it said that in the U.S. it's considered improper to talk about religion because it's considered to be like a very personal thing. So I think it's a
Yeah.
cultural difference also as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Because when you told me that, I was like, my you should have saw my face. Because I guess yeah, because I mean I was brought up here, I was born here, I'm an American. So just like with the culture and you telling me that, I was like, I'm like, that's definitely would have been illegal
That's
over
so
here.
weird.
And it's also like yeah, and also like in interviews for fun fact, like it's actually illegal to ask somebody how old they are. I don't know if that's the same over
Really?
there for
I've
you.
never heard that. No, I don't think it's a problem here. We're different, very different in a lot of ways from.
Very. I think we just get offended here in America so easily. I really think so. Well, I think it's just because I mean I understand both of them because with the age thing, there's like age discrimination. So like if someone were to be like I can be like 18 and just as qualified as like someone who's like 30 something years old. So, but a lot of people are very judgy here. So like if I were to say if someone were to be 18 and then someone's 30, like people are very judgy and then they will just pick the 30-year-old because they're going to automatically assume oh that person's older and they have more experience when a lot of times people I'm not trying to like sound like I mean I'm just confident but like I just feel like it is a discrimination thing with age. There's a lot of that here in the US. So I just think that's why. And honestly, like, I mean, for me personally, I don't care say how old I am because I feel like in my interview, I'm showing you I'm qualified and I'm being mature despite of what my age is. Because a lot of like times, like a lot of jobs that I've worked in, I worked in a bank and I was 19 years old. And a lot of people like are shocked. Like a lot of people, I remember I was in the bank working, and then people were like looking at me like really weird because I also like look young. So people were like wondering like why I'm working this kind of job. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And I'll get judged so much because of how I look.
I mean, I
And
have baby
then,
face too. I definitely get that.
yeah,
Someone once asked if me and my brother are twins, and we're like 4 years apart, and I'm the older one, and
uh,
it was so weird. I'm like, I'm literally a teenager, and he's literally not. What the hell? So.
oh my gosh, that's crazy. But do you guys have like age discrimination over there?
I think to a degree, yes. So it is the kind of situation where you go into a job interview and they're like, have this degree, be this old, and have this much experience. And if you go there freshly graduated, they will kind of be like, well, we want you to be young, but also have experience. So there's definitely that, but I think maybe not as much as in the US. So, but I think maybe it's just a human thing to assume that someone who's older has more experience.
Exactly. And it's just also, I mean, it makes sense, but also it's okay. I feel like it's okay to think like that, but it's just like acting on it is the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've never been to Europe before. I've always wanted to go, but the world's falling apart, so not now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I've been actually all over the world, so that's interesting. I've experienced
Awesome.
a lot of cultures.
Jealous.
Hmm?
Oh, I'm so jealous. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are very adventurous people, I think.
Well, yeah, and my dad's job kind of brought us all over the world. So my accent does come from the US, actually. I did live there for a bit, but it was only,
Really?
yeah,
Where?
in Maryland. So yeah,
Okay.
that way. So I did get a little bit
Wow.
of glimpse into that, and it was kind of a reverse culture shock when we came back because I was just used to the way Americans did things in school and such, and it was such a strict environment that I was coming back to, and I felt like such an alien. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. I probably would feel like that too with the whole culture shock. I also feel like when I moved from Jersey to Florida, even though still the US, I feel like I got a culture shock because New Jersey and Florida are like two different worlds completely.
Yeah, they do say that it depends on the state. So I thought I had the US experience by living in one state, but of course not
Oh,
like
no,
that.
no. I think we also learned this year that the US is like a different country in every state,
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
definitely. Definitely. I got that when I was like learning about it because yeah, I did do American studies at uni, so
I love how you guys say uni. I love that. Yeah, at first I had no idea what that meant until like I started making more friends from Europe. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Got a YouTube friend, and he kept saying uni, and other people kept saying uni, and I'm like, what is uni?
Yeah, you guys say college. It's
was,
basically the same thing, and I never know what words to use in my
yeah.
titles because I definitely have the American accent, but like we say uni, so I kind of speak weird sometimes because I won't say college, I'll say uni, but in this American accent. So
I mean, it makes sense because we call it university too, so it just like makes sense. Uni, university.
yeah.
So it's not really that like you know out of like the difference and such. But okay, let's bring the circle
Okay.
around again. I always do this. Okay, yeah. So we're talking about how it's so hard to like know if it's BPD or
Yeah.
bipolar. Did you? Yeah. Do you like take medication for
Yeah,
BPD?
yeah, I do. A lot of people think that there isn't medication for BPD, and that's kind of true, but it can be treated with medication. Like the mood swing side of it can be treated. Like I take a type of medication that stabilizes my mood. So, and it,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of reduces anxiety as well. I'm not sure what kind of it's not a BPD medication per se, but it works for my BPD. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful that I got on this medication because before that, wow, you would not want to have met me then.
Really? So what is like wait, when were you diagnosed? Like how old
I
were
was
you?
20 and I
Oh,
honestly thought it was like depression and anxiety. And then I met people who also had mental health issues and they were like, depression, anxiety, that's like the basics. What else you got? And then when I left the hospital, I was like, hey guys, I got another diagnosis, not just depression and anxiety anymore. So there's that.
I feel I feel like honestly though, I mean obviously not everyone has like generalized anxiety because everyone's
Yeah.
different. But I know like in this world that we live in, everybody has like some type of like abnormal anxiety in their life,
Yeah.
honestly. And with depression, I mean I depression is like I actually wrote an article on Medium. I write here and there. I haven't written like over a month though, because I haven't been like inspired or anything like that. I really have any more stories to say about my trauma, but I wrote an article. It's saying like depression is not sadness, which a lot of people get that
Yeah.
mixed up. Is that people think oh, people who are depressed are just sad? It's like no. And I wrote about like three different things. So it's like people when people are sad, they're like okay, they have a moment of being sad, they cry, and then they get over it. And then people who are depressed can have like a life event, for example, like losing a job or like going through a breakup or such, then it's like they're depressed for like X amount of time and then they pull through. But like depression is just like it's like part of our life,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
definitely.
And then it's just like it has like other symptoms and also can like hurt you physically, and it's just not there's no cure for it, and it's kind of like a feeling where you go through a breakup and you're depressed, and it's kind of like it's like that's like a temporary feeling, but like having depression is like permanent, and then you just have to like just navigate through it. You know what
Yeah,
I
and
mean?
I think there are definitely like I think I read somewhere that there's a difference between like situational depression, which like maybe you have a life event that causes you to have depression for a while, but then you recover
Mhm.
and you never get depressed again in your life. And then there's people who fall into depression from time to time, and that's totally different. So that's also something. And yeah, I think I read somewhere that depression is not it's what was it like depression is the opposite of liveliness. I think that was something along the lines of that. And yeah, so it's not the opposite of happy. It's not sadness. It's so much more complex than that. I was always very high functioning when I was depressed. Like I would like get a bunch of A's and everything at uni, and people were like, what the hell is your problem?" And I'm like, "I'm depressed, but I don't show it." So there's that.
Yeah, and a lot of people like get that mixed up because it's like you basically, like it's like a certain feeling, when you're depressed. It's like really hard to explain, but if I mean, it feels like literally a weight on your
Yeah.
brain, and it's like pushing you down to like, hey, like trying to push you into being exhausted, but then it's like you have to like go out and still do your day just like anybody else and just kind of like fake it till you make it. And it's crazy because like you really don't know, like when you're out like in a grocery store just out and about, like you don't know if like people are going through that. It's such an invisible illness, and like that is why the stigma is so big, is because they can't see it. And another thing too, I feel like it's such a problem with society is that when people don't understand things, they just literally put it to the side, like, nah, it's not real, because they don't want to try to understand it. And that's like the biggest problem with the stigma, is because people a lot of humans prefer the easy way with everything, and the easy way is to just say it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, there's actually a lot of like influencers and celebrities get a lot of backlash for that. Like, I don't know if you know who Dixie D'Amelio is. She's like big on TikTok, and her music is like, well, she doesn't write her music, but basically her music is basically
Hmm.
saying she's depressed, and it's kind of like a teeny bop too, which like it's like a catchy song, but also the lyrics is basically saying she's depressed. And then people are like, "Wow, she's so depressed in her like $1 million house for like her really hot boyfriend, and how she became famous just because her sister." And then a lot of people in the comments were like agreeing with that, but then a lot of people in the comments were like, "Just because you're rich and famous doesn't mean that you can't
Yeah,
have depression."
exactly. Exactly.
I mean, easier. I mean, yeah, it's definitely nice to have an easier life, but if she has the illness, like it's just literally money and fame is not gonna just like cure it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so people who are like, and a lot of people who commit suicide are like not I mean, I don't know about, actual like data and stuff like that, but we always hear like all these celebrities who commit suicide that we didn't even know were going through. Like for example, like Kate Spade, like remember when she committed suicide? I don't know
No,
if you
I
about that
haven't
one. Do you
heard.
know
I
about that
heard
one?
Robin Williams, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, Kate Spade, she's like a really famous designer, like one of those like
Hmm.
legends kind of thing. And she, like I think she like hung herself or something like that. I don't know what she did. I mean that's not that doesn't matter obviously. But she committed suicide, and people were like in shock kind of thing, and it really woke up people. And it's just so sad how like a big celebrity has to commit suicide for people to like, oh yeah, it's real. You know what I mean? Or like someone who's like a close friend, like if they commit suicide, like, okay, now we actually have to start learning. And it's just like so sad that people are only gonna like pay attention and like actually learn and take the time, like only when like someone commits suicide. And like that's like the big problem too, because they don't want to be bothered. Like so many people like just don't want to be bothered. And it's just like people are just like gonna turn a blind eye until something and they see as serious, in their head. And obviously, as humans, if people commit suicide, that's a universal thing that's serious. Unless you're like a horrible human being and don't care,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like that's like something that we like can all agree on, like, hey, that is serious. Because a lot of things in society is that some people may think things are serious. Sorry, let me just reword everything. Um, some people may think things are more serious than other things. So people prioritize thing over other things because that's just like how like diverse and like how people's minds are. Like not everybody thinks the same way, and that's, I mean, that's fine. But it's just like at the end of the day, we all agree that people committing suicide is
Yeah.
a horrible thing. Um, but so that's when like when people commit suicide and it's on the news, that's where it's like, okay, yeah, we actually like,
Yeah,
have to do
something
something
is
about
wrong. People
this.
are finally like, okay, something is definitely wrong here. Actually, in my country, we have very high suicide rates, and a lot of people are alcoholic, and it's not really being talked about. So we just say that Hungarians are pessimistic, but it's so much deeper than that. But we definitely have a culture where we don't really talk about it. It's just not a part of the conversation. It's like people think maybe that it's shameful or like awkward, and let's just try to avoid it because that obviously works.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because when I was in high school and like I was like very emotional and like had my issues and such, and then people would just like if I'll be venting, some people would like just ignore my text messages, and then like people would think I'm like an
Hmm.
attention seeker, and people just thought I was annoying. And then now people today, like me being super open on like, Instagram and just social media, now people are coming to me and saying like, that's so awesome what you're doing. So it went from, I mean, that's not the same, I'm not gonna say it's the same, actually, way kind of certain people, but that's not important. But yeah, it went from people just thinking like I'm super annoying, looking for attention, to people coming forward and saying that's really awesome what you're doing. It's kind of like it's crazy how that like
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people I always think that a lot of people feel like they don't have a voice, and if you're one of the few that is brave enough to tell your story, then you should, because you should be that voice for the people who feel like they don't have one or aren't brave enough or don't want to
Mhm.
tell their stories, because it's totally okay if someone doesn't want to. But when someone does, it's so powerful, and a lot of people resonate with that. And that's honestly like I don't know what I would have done if it weren't for like the internet helping me find people who also dealt with these stuff, and I finally saw like I'm not crazy and I'm not just overly emotional, because that was what I was always called, like I'm just hypersensitive, and it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same here. Like, I feel like honestly, I don't know how my life would be if we didn't have the internet, because right now the internet is like my life. Well, I'm gonna say my life. I don't want to say it like that 'cause that sounds horrible, but I'm basically trying to make a living off social media, like what I'm doing. And I don't know, I just do like the idea of like meeting people from all over the place, because I feel like in my hometown I was kind of like the odd one. I'm like the odd one out. Which is like another reason why I left New Jersey, is because I am the odd one out. And here in Florida, I am like what I do. I work for Disney, so people who work for Disney are from all over the place. Like working for this company, it's not like working for any company. You're not just working with like you're not like working at your local, like, I don't know, grocery store, bank, or whatever, and everyone is from your area. Like working for Disney is like people from literally like all over the place. Like my roommate, she's from Nebraska and she works for Disney. And like right now, technically my coworkers, two of them that I'm really close with, are from
Yeah.
Jersey, which is a fun fact. And then like my other roommate, she is from Taiwan. I mean, she just recently moved back, but that was because like the whole thing with like furloughed, and she couldn't, yeah, that whole thing with
Yeah.
COVID and stuff. So she moved back to her country. But now I have a roommate from Wisconsin. So it's like it's really cool to like,
It's
you
it's so
know,
weird that you
go
think that all over
outside
the
of
world is
like,
like basically in your country because like for us, like meeting another Hungarian
well,
is
that's
like
not what I
not a
mean.
big deal. But we're such a small country.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, right now I'm not meeting many internationals just because they're because of COVID and the pandemic, they're not here. They're
Yeah.
all back in their countries. Because we have like an international program for Disney, but like they're not doing any of their
Yeah, yeah.
programs right now because of the pandemic. So right now I'm kind of limited to like, just the US kind of thing. But when I did the college program, I met people from who were in France, Italy, Spain. We had like these classes for the college program, like we can take some college classes, and I did like a um we had to do like a certain assignments, and it was like a report or whatever, and then it was like five of us, and we all had to have like each have like a role in the actual project. And then when we were trying to figure out like who's gonna be like the proofreader, right? People all looked at me, and I was like, why are you guys all volunteering me? In my head I'm just like, why me? And they're like, because you're the only one whose first language is English. And I was like, oh
Right.
yeah.
Right. I'm American. I'm the only one.
I was the only one who had English as the first language who like, like with the whole MLA format and APA format. And yeah, so in my group we had two people from France, we had a person from Denmark, Honduras. Actually no, I guess it was just four people and I was the fifth person. And yeah, we ended up getting like an A on the paper, which was really cool. And it was a long paper, but it was like really cool just having like all of us
Yeah.
collaborate on it. And it's great. And that's why I love how we had those classes, because it put us in a position where we have to learn how to like collaborate with people
Yeah, I
with
think
different
it's important
backgrounds.
because a
And
lot of people don't see any other culture outside of their own, and they have no idea how other people live. And
exactly. And it's just like also being super open-minded too. And I always like say like if people have the opportunity that they can travel, like do it. Like I don't understand that there's some people in this world who are totally okay with like just being in their hometown for like just like not exploring. You know what I mean? Like I mean everyone's different, of course, but for me personally, if I'm not like traveling or doing things, it just kind of puts me in a dark place, because I'm the kind of person where like I need to learn new things. Like I can never
yeah,
settle.
I love
You know
to
what I mean?
travel, so I was definitely planning on doing some traveling this summer, but yeah, that all went up in smoke. But maybe sometime soon. Okay.
Yeah, maybe like next summer. I mean, right now I think it's good that we are now like starting to see the light. I mean, right here in the US it's still really bad with COVID and such. How is it
Um,
over by you?
I don't know. I think it's not that bad, but it's not great either. So it's like somewhere in the middle. The population isn't getting vaccinated yet, but it's on the horizon, so maybe soon. So we're starting on moving in the right direction, I think. But yeah, not the worst, but also not the best is what I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, the US is like very, I feel like it could be better if people would be on the same
Yeah.
page, if you know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think it's especially
but
difficult
they're not.
because you have all these states and everyone has a different opinion, and it's like, how do you navigate that?
Exactly. And they made this whole
Yeah.
political. Yeah. And the US made it just all political. And it was also like what was happening during election year. So it just
Yeah,
made it a
I
lot
like
10
I'm
times
hearing
worse.
things that are happening, and like my dad is in the US right now. He's coming home soon, but he was actually in DC when when everything went down, and he was like it's so weird, but he's
Oh
okay.
goodness.
But it was just it's like I'm here, and like I can't believe it. Like, is this the same US that I lived in? Like, it seems like it's a different country.
When did you live in the US? What
2007
year?
to 2009. Yeah.
That's why. That's why. There you go. Now, from 2016 to now, the
Yeah,
US has
yeah.
been a shit
That's
show.
true.
Literally. That's what it is. I'm hoping it's better now. I mean, right now it's still in the stages where it still kind of is, just because people are mad that didn't like Trump didn't win kind of thing, so people are getting really angry about it. For me, I'm so glad he didn't win. For me, I'm happy. And what's crazy, this is completely like irrelevant to like what
True.
we're supposed to be talking about, but I literally just like I have a bad habit of bringing politics into my podcast, and I probably should stop doing that, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But I just like discovered that in June that Trump made it legal for hospitals to turn away
Oh
gay people.
no. Oh, no.
I did not know this. I saw this and I was because basically I was seeing like what Biden was doing and Biden reversed that. So when I saw that what he was doing on his first day and I saw he reversed that and I was like, wait, it was illegal at one point. So I did a bunch of like research and googling and apparently yeah, like recently in June, like this past June, Trump made it legal for hospitals to discriminate
I
against
heard
the
something
LGBT
about this
community.
that he like took back laws that were supposed to protect the LGBT community. And I was like, why are we moving backwards? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's what I was saying. That a lot of people were saying that like we're
yeah,
literally reversing everything, and then people were saying like this is to get this is him making America great again, just really just going back in history. And I like when I heard that with the whole reversing, I'm like that just goes against like a right to health. Like you
exactly.
know what
And
I mean?
like,
Like
what
just because
happened
someone's
to
gay,
equality
like
for everyone and all men are created equal? Like, it's literally in the.
yeah, and then when that happened, when as soon as Biden reversed it, literally so many people came out of the
Aw,
closet.
that's kind of sweet.
It's crazy. And then like yeah, I really had like actually JoJo Siwa actually went out of the
Cool.
closet
I
recently. Fun
love that
fact.
people are being more open
Yeah,
about
so
these things because it's so important to have representation and not just representation, but good representation. It's so important.
yeah, and I also did some like googling like a while ago, just curious and see like how mental health is being like funded in the U.S. and such. And I was like, I don't remember the numbers, but when I was searching, literally like the amount that was being like given from the government for mental health is so freaking low. And it was so ridiculously low. And then I like looked up like how much they're putting towards
Oh yeah.
the whole military and like wars and stuff like that. And they're putting billions and billions and billions and
Yeah,
billions
mental
and
health is
billions of
never a
dollars
priority.
towards that.
But I do have to say that I'm lucky that we have universal health care because yeah, my dad fell off his bike when he was in the US and he was like talking to me about what kind of bills he got from the hospitals. I was holding my head like, what? How is this possible? And it that you pay for different injuries and like what?
Yeah, when I had appendicitis and when I had my surgery, if I didn't have health
Oh
insurance, I
my
would have been 60
God,
grand.
that's crazy. Just
Yeah,
thinking back to how many times I was
I
in
was
the
so glad I had health
hospital,
insurance.
like I don't know, I'd be broke by now.
Yeah, no, I was in the hospital a lot too, but I it's like really interesting. So like in New Jersey, I was on when I was 19, I was able to like be independent for getting health insurance. So at the time when I was applying, I only had like a part-time job, so I wasn't making a lot of money. But I mean, I was living like at home with my family, so I didn't like need the money. So, but the government looked at me as poor, so they gave me free health insurance, which was really nice. And then when I moved to Florida, I applied for the same health insurance, but they denied me there. So it's like they accepted me in New
So weird.
Jersey, but they denied me in Florida. And like that's just how apparently our
Things,
government
some
works
things are
here.
so strange. Like when I first heard about the healthcare situation in the US, I was like, isn't this like a developed country? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, healthcare is so complicated here in the US and I don't know. I just feel
I mean,
like
I pay for therapy
I
too,
don't know.
so the mental health
I
bit
don't know.
isn't the best, but like at least I don't have to pay for the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I luckily I have really good health insurance with Disney. So, like for therapy, I get like X amount of visits for free that the
Okay.
company pays for, which is really nice. And then like psychiatry, I pay like $20 a visit, which isn't horrible. If it was without health
Oh
insurance, it would
my
have been
God. Oh
$200
my
per
God.
session.
That's like how much I pay for a month.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I have it once a month for psychiatry, and then that therapy's different. But no, yeah, sometimes I just like literally see these like I'm trying to think like if I didn't have health insurance and I really need my mental health, like I need mental health treatment, and then I go and I just get these bills, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
get more sad. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
gonna like put me in more stress,
Yeah.
and it's
I,
just gonna
I
make
mean,
it
I mean,
worse.
here, if you want to get therapy, it's not impossible, but you definitely can't get it once a week. Maybe you, if you're lucky, you can get in once every 2 weeks for like 20 minutes, but more like maybe 20 minutes a month. So if you want intense therapy, then
Mm.
you have to pay for it. You have to be rich or at least willing to work for that to be able to pay for that. But yeah.
It's crazy. You have to have
Yeah,
money
and
to
to be
like be
mentally
alive,
stable, you have to have a lot of
pretty
money.
much. It's crazy. And like I said, I'm just very grateful in the position that I'm in because I know people who don't have what I have and they are
Exactly.
not getting any help and they are struggling and or they're getting help and they're just paying ridiculous amount of money to get somewhere, and it's like majority of their paycheck is like going towards that, and it's literally like the bare minimum, like it's like keeping ourselves alive, like not wanting to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
freaking
it's
jump
so
off a
important, and
bridge.
and it's like not supported at all. I'm also very lucky because I can finance therapy and I do get help from home if I need it. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's so sad that a lot of people like just don't have the money for that, and it is literally the bare minimum for a lot of people. And if you don't get treatment, it can definitely get worse very fast.
Yeah. And then there's also people out there who are still today don't know they have a mental
Oh
illness
yeah,
or just kind of
yeah,
turning a blind eye about it. And I do know, like I did talk about this in like the Zoom meeting, how people are like now just like coming out that they have a mental health issue. And like I mean, I honestly, I guess for me, like I came out with having mental health issues when I was 17.
that's
I mean
actually
like more like
relatively
diagnosed
early,
and everything,
I
and then
think.
I know people are
I think that's actually
wait,
relatively
what? I'm sorry?
early because a lot of people get diagnosed way later.
Yeah, I don't know. I think,
Oh
well,
yeah.
I also kind of had an episode, so my parents were like, "Yep, you're getting help, sis." Like, no, no, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
sis. That
yeah,
doesn't
I
make any
get it.
sense. But you know what I mean. So that's kind of was like that was when because I had an episode. So it feel like it's like people. It's kind of sad thinking like, okay, people need to have an episode to like know they have something wrong with them, and that's what I hear from a lot of people who realize when I talk to people like when they were diagnosed, it usually
Yeah,
typically starts
yeah,
when they like have an episode, and they're like, oh wait, I should probably not want
yeah.
to die every day. You know what I mean? Like there's something wrong. I'm having these thoughts. So they're like suicide words. You know what I mean?
Ideation, I think.
I okay, whatever. ID. It's like one of those words where it's just like I'm like my
Yeah, yeah,
tongue is
I
like I
I get
can't
that.
say it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it's just like I kind of I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that people when they like listen to this podcast and when they like watch YouTube videos or just like you know follow Instagrams and they talk about it, that they would feel like they can step forward and that it's being normalized. Like that's a big thing with like my podcast is that I want people to know that this can be a conversation that is completely casual, normal, and it shouldn't be like something
Yeah,
that we're
it
scared to
should
talk
be.
about. You know what
It
I
should
mean?
be.
It's just like normal. Yeah, and that's a big thing, like why I want to have this like as a very casual kind of podcast, which is just kind of all over the place, but it's just kind of just giving an example that this is completely fine to have a conversation like this, and if people like want to reach out, like my
Yeah,
DMs are
mine
always
too.
open. We'll have this
So
conversation, and it's just out there. Yeah. So, and then also just like showing everybody how much of a badass people are, and I just love bringing different people in this podcast and just kind of like
everyone's
talking
story is
about people's
different.
stories
So
and
I think it's
such.
very valuable to hear a lot of stories.
Exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, wow, we are going
And
into
I think
almost
we
50
spent most of
minutes
the
here.
time talking about cultural differences in politics.
I know. Yeah, I know. We just
Yeah.
mixed a little bit of mental health in there. Yeah, I mean it's in a way it's kind of relevant. I mean, I'm sure when I listen to it, it'll make sense. We did
Yeah.
kind of go a lot of back and forth with mental health, but we did talk about like cultural differences
Yeah,
like
yeah, definitely.
with mental health as well, like differences. Yeah, I think we touched on
Yeah,
some
I agree.
valuable stuff here. So yeah, I mean, if they can always leave a review on
I
Apple
hope
Podcasts,
so.
see if they
I'm
like.
gonna be so nervous, like looking at it,
Yeah,
like, oh my God, people are actually listening to me talk. That's so exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time.
yeah. No, it's super fun. It's like a great way for people to like
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
people's
I love
voice like
listening to
literally. You know
podcasts
what I mean?
myself, so I get.
Yeah, definitely. So before we do close on this podcast, is there anything you
Mm.
want to say? Any
Maybe
last
that
words?
me even though living with BPD is hard and living with mental health issues in general is hard, it does get better. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but recovery is possible and you will be able to handle your episodes better in time if you do accept help and that taking medication
Mhm.
is always okay. And I always say that medication is like a tool, it's not the solution, but it will help you get get there through therapy and medication. It can help you get to the point where your life doesn't feel that hard anymore. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely like with experience is a big part too, just like understanding your disorder and like how to navigate through. And then each year, I mean, honestly, each year is easier because obviously there will be some setbacks, but like you just start like learning how to, cope and such. But yeah, I do appreciate you being on here, and I really hope everyone would enjoy this episode. And I hope that everyone has a great
Thank you
day.
so
And like I said
much. I loved
again,
having
thanks
this
again,
talk
Flora,
with
for being
you
on here.
and love meeting you and everything. And thank you everyone who listened.